And this is like the best one of all of these points, I think, but the most unique, especially as it complements number 6 so well. In 2020, more than 5,000 unique marketing agencies and consulting partners referred leads to Klaviyo. Hey everyone, welcome to the GTM News Show. I got a special episode today here. I'm actually changing up the format today and doing a kind of impromptu recap of Klaviyo's recent S1. It's a filing you do before you go public. And Klaviyo is just kind of an anomaly in this market when it comes to B2B SaaS, when it comes to B2B companies in general. And I wanted to take some time to really go over the nitty gritty of kind of some learnings. I kind of took eight things away, maybe 7.5, at least maybe 7.5, maybe 8 things, takeaways, go-to-market takeaways from their recent S1. So let's jump right into it. So Klaviyo, what's Klaviyo? Klaviyo is it's a couple different things. It's a marketing tool. It's also a data integrator. But what they are known for is integrating with Shopify, an e-commerce tool where people can sell online. And then they've done a bunch of other things, which we'll get into it. Kind of high level, the numbers, some of the incredible things they've done. The first thing that struck me was that they've raised $455 million in venture capital, but have only used 15 million of it, which is crazy, especially in this market. They have a net dollar retention, so every customer they get, they keep 119%. So obviously their customers are growing with them. They have a CAC payback period of 14 months, which also in this environment is just crazy to have that at a growing, scaling, large company, hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue. A couple other things that were noticeable was for every $1 they spend in sales and marketing, they produce $1.03 in gross profit the next year. They spend about 45% of their revenue on marketing and sales. And for being a $500 million in revenue company that's growing as fast as they're growing, like 60% year over year, that's pretty incredible. Salesforce last year, which is a $10 billion annual revenue, right? 20 times the size of Klaviyo, spent about that much last year. So on sales and marketing, which just shows their efficiency when it comes to sales and marketing. They're in a very competitive market. They have Adobe, Salesforce, MailChimp, Braze, big companies that are in the market that they're competing against, and yet they still carved out a market and did things really unique that we'll kind of jump into the 8 things they learned from it. They were profitable as of June 2023, which is crazy. Once again, growing as fast as they're growing, 60% year over year, right? They did almost 500 million or so for something and change in revenue, and yet they were profitable in the middle of by June 2023. Their average contract value is $4,500. They have gone up market, which we'll talk about in a little bit as well, but they've started in the SMB space, started with entrepreneurs and whatnot. So let's jump right into the findings. So first of all, this is just an anomaly as well. I think they're going to be in this market. They're the first, one of the first software companies to start to go public in this economic downturn, right? And they've really, I think, I feel like are going to reignite. Tomasz Tunguz said, like how he framed it, he says, it's a marvel of a business with strong growth, great efficiency, and the potential to reignite interest in SaaS IPOs. So kudos to Klaviyo. We'll get into their name later as well. It's a funny story behind that, and also some learnings around their name. So let's jump right into the first thing. First, just reading over their S1, reading over their history. They have a great product that meets an acute market need. So whatever your go-to-market strategies are, right? However you're trying to grow from a marketing standpoint, from a sales standpoint, from pricing, whatever you're trying to do, whatever growth hacks you have up your sleeve, nothing beats a great product with an acute market need. So they had things they looked at. We'll kind of dive into the different markets they went after, different customers they went after, but really they had a product that combined things like complex customer data, personalization, consistent interactions over digital channels. They did things that, as people are moving away from third-party data, they really focus on first-party data, allowing e-commerce businesses, allowing retailers to harness first-party data. If you're a marketer in this space, you know that anonymous buying activity is only increasing. So not only did they help accelerate folks to be able to tap into that, but they also had this crazy network effect that made their product only better. They have like I forgot how many billions of interactions, transactions, and data points they've been able to collect, which then feeds back into the product that creates this awesome network effect, awesome end product for the customer, that gets them insights on what should their email rates be, their click-through rates, their purchase rates, whatever, repurchase rates, stuff like that. So they found an acute market need, right, which was around complex data, marketing automation, and then they created a great product that was low friction, easy to sign up for, and we'll kind of talk about all the different go-to-markets that just made it even easier to adopt. But I think their low friction product, acute market need, emerging problems that are really needed like in every industry, but then they found a kind of a niche or a lane to play in. Was really important. So can't forget just an acute, great product that meets an acute market need. Number one. Number two, they picked a growing market. So e-commerce is a growing market, especially over the past 3 years since the pandemic. We've seen e-commerce, retail expand. So they picked that market and really doubled down on that for a long time. And the other markets they got into kind of naturally happened, as they said in their S1. So first, they picked a kind of a growing market, which is always really helpful when you're going to market. And they let the other markets kind of naturally happen afterwards. I think that's really important when you're looking at an ICP or target market is first, finding one that's growing is great, right? One that's shrinking, that's hard to compete in, especially if it's already a competitive market. But one that's growing, like e-commerce. And then they also picked retail purchasing, right? They picked retail organizations, small businesses. And I did some consulting for my sister who had a small e-commerce business. And in 2020, her business doubled in revenue, right? And it was super cool to see that just because everyone was purchasing online. She was a Shopify store. She did really well in that year and continued to grow. So I think, and then they also picked within a niche and within that and just owned that, right? And saturated that market before they even went up market, which we'll talk about in a second, or before they even expanded into other verticals, right? Or other segments of the market. E-commerce, number two, they picked a growing market called like e-commerce retail. Number three, they demonstrated impact. So when you're going to market, being able to demonstrate that you provide impact is so crucial. There's so many, every SaaS company has a hard time, I think, demonstrating impact because there's so many, it's really hard to measure a lot of times. But they picked a market that happened to be maybe a little easier in some ways, since they have so much data and since they connect data and they're just all about data in so many ways. They actually came up with what they call a CAV, which is Klaviyo at scale. And they have an aggregated $37 billion of Klaviyo to their customers, which is basically ROI, how they calculate ROI to 130,000 customers. So first they came up with a cool little term, right, that they help calculate. And so they had demonstrated impact by combining easy implementation, rapid time to value, and clear attributable outcomes. In this highly competitive market, having clearly attributable outcomes is so powerful to continue to tell your story of here's how we can, not only to keep customers, right, to show your ROI, but also to get new customers, is that you can be like, hey, here's how we've helped all these other people with actual tangible outcomes versus the intangibles, which are also important, but way less effective, especially in a competitive market and especially in a down market like we've experienced in 2023. Number four, easy self-service expansion. So one thing I saw here is, here's a quote from their S1, expand their usage of their platform in a self-service manner. We are maniacally focused on making our platform intuitive and exceptionally easy to deploy, driving our customers to expand their usage of our platform in a self-service manner. Self-service is obvious, right? But I think what they did was self-service expansion, right? Not only can people just sign up and use the platform, but they can also expand on it to their other products and increase usage as well. Crushed, number 5, they crushed one go-to-market motion and then went up market. A quote from their S1, when we first launched our platform, we intentionally focused on serving entrepreneurs, small and medium-sized businesses, or SMBs. As our customers have scaled and become mid-market companies and larger enterprises themselves, their success with Klaviyo has attracted more interest for similarly sized businesses are looking to drive better engagement with their customers. As such, we have continued to build out a sales team to focus on mid-market enterprise customers. As of June 2023, we have 1,458 customers, generate an increase of 94% year over year. So first of all, they started with SMB space, right? And they really owned it. They crushed SMB space, they scaled that. And as they found success with that, they naturally went up market. So interesting. I've actually never even heard of this, even talking this through right now. I've never heard of somebody saying we naturally went up market, right? Usually it's like, hey, let's do our product-led growth motion, which is what Klaviyo's really done well here, right? They created a product that was really sticky, had a great, awesome flywheel. But then they actually naturally went up market. As their customers grew, as they grew with their customers, they found success in mid-market enterprise spaces, which created, once again, a flywheel of other folks being like, hey, if those mid-market and enterprise companies can use it, then we can as well. So just naturally created that flywheel, which is so interesting because usually we're always like, hey, do your PLG motion, then you try to add on a sales-led motion or an enterprise motion, and it's just, usually it fails, right? We see that a lot where it fails trying to do both. Whereas Klaviyo is just kind of naturally letting the inertia of their customers growing, finding success with them, probably figuring that out, and now they can dump fuel on the fire, increase their, as they said in their S1, increase their outbound teams, increase their sales teams. All right, number 6, strategic partnerships with Shopify. So this is probably what everyone, when you look at their S1 or Klaviyo, they're immediately going to go to. And these next 2 points are I think just as important as everything else. These are actually the most exciting, probably cool things that Klaviyo's done, and the combination of number 6 and number 7 I think is really cool. So strategic partnership with Shopify. Klaviyo in 2022, I believe it was, established a strategic partnership being Shopify's recommended email solution for Shopify merchants. So they struck a deal with Shopify being their recommended provider. So you would think, oh man, everyone on this, Shopify. So Shopify, just so people know, they are just like a lot of software platforms now. They have a software tool, but then they have this ecosystem of folks that plug into it. Klaviyo is a tool that plugs into Shopify, right? Shopify is this huge e-commerce platform tool people can use, and Klaviyo is a tool that adds onto it. So with Klaviyo, what they did is they grew with that just naturally, and as they found so much success, they're able to strike a partnership with Shopify, the strategic partnership. And so 77.5% of their total revenue came from Shopify customers. So I don't know the whole story behind their partnership with Shopify, but I guarantee you a lot of that was already before they started that strategic partnership, right? And it just accelerated that. But they were always kind of really focused on the Shopify ecosystem from what I've read, what I'm seeing, and that partnership just accelerated it, right? So they didn't get the cart before the horse. They actually had to build out a great product for Shopify for an ecosystem-led growth. That's kind of what this category is, right? They built a product for Shopify, showed that it was awesome, built it, and then solidified it. That's my own personal opinion of that's on their S1 from what I've read. I imagine that's what happened. It wasn't like the partnership created all this growth. They actually created the growth, and the partnership is now accelerating it. What's really interesting in all of this is that most of their customers, almost 80% of their customers are on Shopify, right? So that's this sweet marriage of these two tools, but only 10.6% of them found it through the Shopify App Store. So I see this a lot with ecosystem-led growth, where someone's like, hey, I'm just going to build an app for HubSpot, or for Salesforce, or for Atlassian tools, or for whatever, Microsoft, Teams, or whatever. You build a tool, just add on to it, and you expect the App Store to generate all this revenue for you. You may, right? They got 10% of their new revenue, I believe it was in 2022, 2023, was through the App Store, right? So they did get new customers through there, through this partnership, through this, but it wasn't necessary. But 90% of it, their new revenue, actually came in from other sources, and we'll talk about that in a second. It came through inbound sources, word of mouth, and partnership-led growth, which we'll talk about in the next one here. So they're definitely weighing that this partnership with Shopify is super important. Because it's obviously most of their customers are on Shopify, but they actually didn't get most of their customers from the Shopify ecosystem. They actually brought them to the ecosystem, or got them recommended through other sources. So that's number 7. So first, number 6 is strategic partnership with Shopify. You can't discount that partnership, right? You can't discount that they focused on that ecosystem and really built out their customer base in that ecosystem, obviously with so many of their customers being there. They integrate with other e-commerce platforms, but Shopify is the primary one. Number 7, and this is like the best one of all of these points, I think, the most unique, especially as it complements number 6 so well. In 2020, more than 5,000 unique marketing agencies and consulting partners referred leads to Klaviyo. So this is what I would categorize as partnership-led growth, right? Or other people would categorize as well. Like, they got marketing agencies, they partnered with them, where the marketing agencies can provide value to their customers by using this tool, helping them implement this tool, and then sending them to the Shopify App Store to download it, right? So they, in their terminology, they said, 10% of it came from the Shopify app. The rest of it primarily came from this partnership. These partnerships, right? Marketing agencies, consulting firms, inbound, and word of mouth were the other ones as well. And so inbound, I'm sure, was things like SEO and maybe paid ads and email marketing and all those things. But this partnership, I'd be curious how many leads they actually generated, how much revenue they generated, because it probably was a huge part of it, because it created that word of mouth. It created that flywheel of this sweet interaction where they just didn't have ecosystem growth, right? With the Shopify integration, they had that partnership growth, people that serve the ecosystem, and they got them to bring them into the platform, and this amazing flywheel. I've never seen an organization do this so well. I think that was this key to all their success. They had the table stakes, right? They had a great product and media market need. They focused on a growing market, e-commerce. They demonstrated impact, right? They provided value, and they showed the value they provided and the ROI. They had easy self-service and easy expansion. They crushed one GTM motion, right? They didn't try to go up market. They didn't try to serve enterprise and SMB at the same time. They focused on one. But then lastly, I think number 6, that ecosystem strategic partnership with the Shopify, and then that partnership growth, number 7, is just amazing. It's so cool to see that, and I kind of want to meet their CMO or CRO or CEO, whoever came up with this awesome strategy to do all these things and marry all these things together. And I'm sure it was a lot of work and a lot of time and effort on everyone's part, but kudos to them. And then number 8 is you don't have to have a name to be memorable or one that's easy to pronounce. I actually had to look it up, Klaviyo, and they actually literally made up the name. I looked it up, and I don't know how they came up with the name, but they made it up. Probably to get the domain name, I'd imagine, to get the unique domain name. But Klaviyo, they made it up, and there's all sorts of different variations of how people call it. But maybe number 8, 7.5, half jokingly, you don't have to have a very memorable name because it's hard to even pronounce. Or maybe it's so unique and so different that it is actually memorable. And you're like, hey, that weird company's name, what's that weird one's name? So maybe it's something like that. But kudos to Klaviyo. What a cool learning experience. I think big takeaways from me are you can't discount partnerships. You can't discount the ecosystems that you tap into. You can't discount being focused, right? Being, like they said, maniacal about expansion and self-service, being focused on one GTM motion, right? They weren't trying to go up market. They weren't trying to serve all these different types of customers. They focused on one segment of the world, right? One vertical, right? E-commerce, retail is what they really started in. They demonstrated impact and they had a great product. This was like a sweet marriage of all these things and sweet combination of all these things, and a lot to learn from. Kudos to Klaviyo. Thanks everyone for listening to this. Hope this was helpful, and we'll see you next week.